I'm the type of dude to apologize to my therapist for talking too much.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The really
Fun.
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 It's a really fun wow show. The really
Fun.
The really fun wow show. Oh, how fun.
Hello. That was a rough start. Excuse me. Hello and welcome to the Really Fun Wow Show. I feel like I got my my NPR voice going right now. It is, what time is it? Who cares? It's in the evening time and I'm at home. I'm actually in bed right now, which is not where I normally record the show. My kid got sick today, and so today would have been this afternoon. I would have recorded the episode and had it all finished and ready to go. And that didn't happen. So I'm recording it now. I just put my kid to bed, brought the podcast stuff home, sitting here in bed. And actually this feels kind of nice. I got to be honest with you here. Yeah, it's a little bit more intimate and I'm cozy. I'm at home. This is where I feel, at home it's really where I feel at home. Hold on, let me get my wires all adjusted here, get settled in. Thank you again for joining me always. Like, still surprised, not gonna lie. Especially with this kind of low effort being made right now where this show is so, it's weird. It's like, it's important to me, but not important enough to actually take it seriously. It's actually a great Oscar Wilde quote that some things are too important in life to take seriously. And I don't think this is one of them, but I just always like to give that quote because it's really good. But yeah, I don't know. I would love for this to be more important than it is. And I don't know what's holding me back. I think part of it is that I do it on my own. That I don't often feel like I have anything really that valuable to share. So there's part of it that feels like, who cares? Like who cares? And clearly you all care and you come back every week, presumably. I don't know. I'd be curious to know who listens to it like every Wednesday. I know a few people have reached out to me and thank you so much for that. And a couple people have said that this is, I don't know if they said highlight of their week. I might be putting words in mouths here, but at least it has some level of importance to them on a weekly basis. And that means a lot. Needless to say, that's really incredible. And I guess that's kind of who I'm doing it for, like having this kind of like friendship, this kind of one-sided friendship where I show up and I talk and you all listen. That's really, really special. So I guess part of it is that why I keep doing this. I love podcasts. I really love producing them. I love providing like audio entertainment. I love the kind of the resurgence of that format of media, when it was at its heyday in radio times. And then it went away for a bit. And now it's back in full force where we have an appreciation for just hearing people talk without having to see visual, which I normally record visual for YouTube, but I just could not be fucking bothered to set up the camera. So you're getting this. This afternoon, or this morning, I put a thing out on Instagram to ask people if they had something for me to talk about because I wasn't going into this with anything top of mind. It's also interesting to think about how seemingly uninteresting my life is. Like a week goes by and maybe I'm not paying attention to it. And maybe this is something that I could do on my end, a little homework assignment, to say like, hey, why don't you be a little bit more aware of what's occurring throughout the week enough to bring it to this kind of meeting every week and talk about what's going on. And I think part of it is that I don't particularly think I'm all that, what does that sound? All that prolific or philosophical or intelligent or entertaining to think that a week goes by and I'm kind of gathering notes to give you this kind of presentation at the end of the week. And so that's why I'm often kind of apologizing for this show. I'm so sorry. So anyway, I asked you all to send me responses and fucking there's a shitload of them. I went over to my studio to grab the equipment and I printed out like fucking 9 pages here. it's very big font, so it's not like there's 9 pages of single spaced questions here, but there's a fucking shitload on here. There's no way I would get through all of these. So maybe this is the show. Maybe I just work off this pile for the rest of time, forever, however long I keep doing this. I've also thought about, I've thought about it, and as quickly as the thought comes, it leaves, having guests on, but I just can't quite, like, there's no one I can think of where I'd be like, man, I would love to talk to that person. I mean, like I don't know, like, I'm sure that that's not entirely true. I just haven't quite cracked it, but I think part of it is like knowing that I do this show on my own, and then so it has that kind of consistency to it, and then to suddenly just have like a random guest on and then go back to like not having a guest on for a long time. Like, I either want to do it like all guests all the time, or never. There's the classic podcast burp. I don't know if you guys heard it. Or never have guests on, or scrap this show entirely and get a co-host, and we do that, which for those who have known me long enough and have followed my career close enough, know that I did a show a couple of years ago, or however long ago that was, with my old neighbor, and it's called Mystical Cynical, and it's still up, and I still pay $12 a month to have it hosted for whatever reason. I mean, I think, well, there's a reason at least that it's something that I think is still like relevant and worthy of having out as a representation of myself. I feel like really wholly represented well with that show. And I think what we did on that show was great. And I mean, I had a blast most of the time. And man, talk about like a lack of preparation. Like the co-host, I could say his name. I don't know why I'm like being so elusive about it. Jamie would often come with like notes, or just at least topics written down on his phone. And I did that for a while when I was like first getting started. And it's so funny to like think about where I'm at now, where like I'm literally laying in bed in my gym jams. And when we first started doing Mystical Cynical, we sat at my kitchen table and we like sat across from each other, and I had the mics like propped up properly. And there was a level of like austerity to it, or at least like professionalism or attempted professionalism. And I was like really, I was nervous, and also just a kind of like, stiff, and I'm sure that it comes across as far as me presenting myself. But then by the end of the show, I don't know how many episodes we did. I think like 50 or something like that, or 40 or something. I was like literally laying on his couch, like laid out with the mic. I could, barely be bothered to hold the mic close enough to my face, and never had notes, and would just be like, I'm just going to fucking riff off what Jamie's got to say. And I think it worked. Again, I feel really proud. I'm not like, oh man, I really phoned it in there and that's not worth it. So I guess it was a testament to my level of comfort and being able to fairly accurately represent myself without feeling like I have to put in that much effort. So that feels really nice. At least that's affirming. But yeah, that kind of that relationship of like having somebody who you could talk to week in and week out and keep it interesting and keep it compelling, like that's really cool. And yeah, who knows? But for now, it's just me again. And I think that's kind of a good way to segue into this first response from some projections. I guess I'm going to read out people's usernames because some of these usernames are really good. And I know how good it feels, or at least feels good for me. I can't speak for everybody. When you're listening to a show, this is like very specific niche example. But if you listen to a show, a podcast, or a television show would be even cooler, of course, but or a movie. But let's say it's a podcast, and I've had this experience a couple of times where I listen to a podcast that I like and I have some connection to it. So whether it's like a friend or I'm a fan of, and have somehow kind of weaseled my way into it, and your name gets said on the podcast. Ooh. So I can think of a couple of examples if you'll indulge me. I'd love to give a shout out to my boys at Yeah Dude, UHH Yeah Dude. They're the OGs. Let's just say they invented podcasting. They've been doing it for, what are they doing it now? Like 17 years. Is that right? Yeah. 17 years. And they're fucking fantastic. It's Jonathan and Seth. And I rarely actually like recommend people listen to them, because I almost like, not that I want to like keep them for myself, because clearly I think the world would be a better place if everybody listened to Oh Yeah Dude, but it's more about like trying to give a proper kind of like introduction to them. Like, I'm not even going to waste any time trying to give you kind of a synopsis of these two men, but they're fantastic and they do a really good job and they're hilarious. And if you know them long enough, even by listening to them, you will fall in love with them both. And I discovered them a couple of years ago and was like, these guys are fucking great. And I reached out to them and formed a relationship with both of them. And then I started doing artwork, just like kind of fan art for them. And they were then producing merch with it. And like I remember them they do like live shows, and they did a live show where like the big backdrop was like a projection of an illustration I did. And then they've said my name a couple times on the show, just in passing, like thanking me for the art. And it's fucking like, ooh, it gives me like such an exciting feeling in the stomach, and like, oh God. And you look around and you're like, oh, no one's here. And I couldn't like share. It's hard to share that excitement with somebody, because you're like, hey, this really niche podcast that you've never heard of just mentioned me. Isn't that exciting? So yeah, it's got obviously just got to be a treat for me. So with all that being said, some projections, maybe you're getting a little feeling right now from hearing your username. I wish I had your real name, but some projections is cool. This person asked the consequences of being yourself. That's an amazing way to ask that, the consequences of being yourself, as opposed to the advantages of being yourself, which is really funny because, yeah, I mean, I have had consequences to being myself. Most recently, this feels like really contemporary to talk about. And again, I feel like I don't often talk about too intimately or too specifically my like internet life, like real fun wow kind of life. Like I usually kind of come in here with, Daren McGee as much as possible in this, but then again, Daren McGee is real fun wow. And so, there's no separation really. So, do I need to give backstory as to like what the brand Real Fun Wow is, or what the brand voice is? So, I mean, personally, I am very sarcastic and sardonic and tongue in cheek and ironic, and all the ways that you can like kind of take the piss out of anything. There's a level of irreverence that I think has consequences when you are like, I refuse to take anything seriously, so let's go. And most recently, this was like a day like any other day where I got a wild hair up my ass and had an idea, and it's not like it's not a great idea, or like it's an idea, and it happens and it gets like expressed, and then we all just like, and life goes on for forever and ever and ever after that. But I put a slide up on my Instagram stories that said, I'm going to try out a new marketing campaign. Let me know if you think this is too heavy handed. Now the let me know if you think is entirely rhetorical. I'm truly not interested in people's feedback, especially around my brand or like a decision to make a marketing idea, like anything that's involved in my creativity. I've managed to kind of, eliminate the need for feedback, which for better or for worse, and clearly has consequences. But I've done with my business so radically me that I'm just trying to think as I talk, which is what I'm always doing. Thinking of a time where, besides like client work, where you're kind of beholden to the client's feedback, but outside of that, never have I been like, hey, what do you think of this silly ass reel I'm about to post? I don't do well with that. And, I feel really like wholly confident in my expression. And that's not to say it's always good. But at least I'm behind it, and I'm a supporter of it. I never waver on like, hovering on like, oh, fuck, I don't know. Should I post this, or should I put this out? Like everything I do is like, okay, that's done. Fucking post it, or like, schedule it for next, whenever, like that. It's everything. I would say pretty confidently, like, let's just say 99% of the things that I produce get shown to the world, and the ideas that I have, rarely am I like, something flashes through my mind and I'm like, oh, that's not good. That's really dumb. I'll just fucking do it. I'll just do it. I'll hop on my phone. I'll make a story. I'll just say a dumb thought that just came through my head. So I'm very much living in that kind of like, let's go. Like here it is. unedited. And yes, the consequences of that. So with this specific one where I asked a rhetorical question around, let me know what you think. It's basically, here I'm going to get into like kind of the anatomy of a joke. That being like kind of a setup for, I thought I had a burp coming. You guys don't need to know when I'm going to do burps, right? I could probably do you the service of like editing this where like anytime I'm in the like part where I'm about to burp or I burp, I could like cut that out. But yeah, we all know I'm not going to do that. So the anatomy of a joke being the first slide, saying, let me know what you think. So then that's a primer for you as the audience to be like, oh, he's about to say some wild ass shit. Like he's got to announce that he's going to be doing a new marketing thing or like a tone and like, oh shit, you know? So like, that's supposed to be your primer. Now on the next bit, this is in kind of like small letters in the middle, very kind of subdued. It's just a white background and black letters. And it says, you know, I'm trying a new thing. Let me know what you think. Next page, full bleed, big block letters. Like I used a font where I could literally take up all of the space in the entire slide. I feel like this is important to paint and sort of show you my side of things, the justification for my decisions. And it said, please buy something from me or I'll fucking die. I mean, it still makes me laugh because it's fucking stupid. It's really stupid. It's not anything that's, it's good and it's stupid. It's like, yeah. I mean, do I have to explain why it's funny? It's funny because it's not true. And it's also true. Like, you know, I will die, but it's not going to be because you didn't buy. It's so dramatic. It's so ridiculously dramatic that for anyone to not see the humor in it, I'm spending too much time defending it because most of you did and 3 people didn't. And of course I choose to like highlight those 3 people and like not put them on blast, but like screenshot what they've said to me, private message to me and post it. And then, you know, like, and then that becomes like the whole thing. Like my intention wasn't to be like, oh, this is going to start some shit and I'm going to like revel in it. It just started some shit kind of. And I was like, well, this is fun now. Now I get to play with this and just be in that kind of like in that process. And it's less about like me being like angry and like, look what this person said. I'm like, hey, check this out. And then, you know, I took a moment to, this person was lobbing all levels of allegations at me for betraying my audience or what, I forget what the fucking claims were, but it was ludicrous by any stretch of the definition. And I didn't agree with it. And it was along the lines of like, kind of like, misrepresenting myself, as like a starving artist. But it looks like I'm actually doing well for myself. So like, which one is it? Like, are you a starving artist or are you pretending to be one? And I was like, what the fuck, man? I've never, at least as far as I can tell, please feel free to correct me in the comments, wherever those end up. If I've ever like gone out and said that I'm not doing well, can you guys like, hey, if you guys could, you know, could you just like maybe buy a print or something, you know, like that'd be really helpful. Like I don't do that shit, man. I am blatant about my just need for money. I mean, first of all, it is a need, but also like my shamelessness around like, I'm just trying to get paid here. Like, I don't know what you guys are doing, but I'm trying to get paid. Like I have hopes and dreams and bills and debt. And like, I have things that require money. And I, also, you know, shamelessly and openly have a thing around money, and money is security to me. So I want to be secure as fuck. And so I'm going to try and make as much money as I can. And money's just great. I mean, I know it's the worst, but it's also great. Like it's here for us, and we are in a system that requires it. And if you're denying that, then you're probably not doing as well as you could be. I don't know. I don't want to make any assumptions. If you're like a total anarchist and you get by without money, more power to you. But I don't. The best things in life are free, but you can save that for the birds and bees. I want money. So I am hoping that I'm clear enough on that, so we can move on. But yeah, so I felt compelled to respond to that and be like, I've never once, as far as I know, uh, claimed I was anything other than a business owner and an artist who got, you know, I don't want to say lucky, who worked hard enough and maybe some luck, whatever the fuck luck is, and managed to turn this into a business, and which managed to turn this into a steady paycheck. And so like it's my job, and so I'm not being like shameless or like or not being shameful or like hiding that or trying to obscure that in some way. Like, this is my business. And I know it's weird because there's, as far as I know, not a lot of other businesses where the dude who runs it is like out in people's faces, except for like, and I can't believe I'm about to make this comparison, but Elon Musk on Twitter. Like, I'm sure a lot of you guys don't, I was about to say listen to Twitter, and then I was about to say watch Twitter, but aren't actively engaged in Twitter, on Twitter, except for my boy Drew Hartman, who I know you're listening right now. Drew Hartman, USPS Employee of the Month, Employee of the Year, Employee of the World. Big homie Drew, who's active on Twitter. But just totally digress there. I'm talking about business owners who are like loud and front facing and are part of the whole interaction of what their product is. It's a kind of a unique position to be in. So I think that people come at me especially hard because I'm so like available and I'm so kind of front facing and open and part of it, you know, like I'm part of the thing. Again, it's strange because I know there are artists who, you know, are representing themselves and representing their work, but mine kind of takes it to a different level because I'm an artist, but I'm also a brand, and the brand part of it, I think, is the thing that throws people because you don't have like Bezos coming in and like yelling at people on Amazon. Like he just collects his check and you just never hear from him. Me, I'm like up in it. And so it's a little bit of a weird thing for people. And I think also just like kind of being myself, the consequence of that is that I'm pretty unapologetic and raw and have a hard time like censoring myself. And so clearly like that's going to like provoke people, like that's going to incite people. And so I think that that's kind of just the nature of who I am. I mean, I'm a guy who does a fucking podcast by himself. The audacity. I remember saying that like 2 episodes in, like this is the most audacious shit. So of course people are going to come at me. Of course there's going to be consequences to this shit. You can only go so long with talking all the time before you say some shit that's going to upset somebody. So that's been like my biggest kind of lesson in all of this is like, dude, you're choosing to say a lot of shit all the time. Of course there's going to be consequences for it. So, you know, I accept those consequences and I live with those consequences because I love doing this shit. And I don't feel like somebody was, you know, kind of feeling some level of empathy for me for those messages that I received. Not that I deserved it in any way. I wasn't being harassed or you know, kind of bullied or anything like that. It was just people expressing themselves, but they were saying that like, this must drive you insane. I'm like, no, this shit's fun, man. Like this is all so, again, it's not serious. It's like really that person's opinion is theirs. And honestly, this has been like affirming in my strengthening of my own kind of sense of self, where I should be able to receive a stupid fucking message from somebody with literally their opinion and just let it roll off my back, or post it on my stories and then talk shit about it, which is the more mature way to handle it. Oh God, I'm such a shithead. So that's the answer to that question. Okay, well, thanks guys. Thanks for tuning in. We only have about 87 questions to work through here. I honestly thought I was going to be like, I'm going to fucking like just laser or lightning round these things and just go through them. And I mean, I just spent 24 minutes kind of hanging around on one question. So, shit, I think there's opportunity in here. Let's see, maybe we can do one more in time. Building community as a single parent. I kind of talked about that one in the Friends episode. If you haven't listened to Friends, I think it's called. It's hard. It's really, really hard. And I haven't figured it out yet. Buttholes. Kate Butt. Is this like, I mean, I guess it's legit username, Kate Butt 93. Man, was Kate Butt the OG taken. Buttholes. Yeah, I talked about that in episode 1. Building a community as a single parent is lizard breath. Lizard breath. These fucking names are great. Oh shit. Yeah, there's some substantial questions in here that I'll have to, devote entire episodes to. Where do you get your inspiration from for illustrations? That's like that's Natasha Cath, Natasha.Cath. That's a question that I would generally avoid. But lately, I think I talked about this in the AI episode. I've covered all these. I've been generating stuff through like artificial intelligent, what do they call them? Prompt generators, I guess. And coming up with shit that like kind of just comes from my mind and then gets produced, which by the way, this might be uninteresting to some, but the specifics of these kind of different AI generators, I've been using DALL-E for a while. And to me, that like ends up producing work that feels more in line with mine, kind of like rough, kind of more simple illustrations, kind of just black line work or, whatever it is, kind of just the way that my work isn't ever really highly detailed or really that good, I would say, like from a technical standpoint. Like there are illustrators who are far beyond my capacity or capabilities. And so I feel like mine's kind of like very rudimentary. And I think that also somehow has an appeal to people because it's more minimal and that seems to come across as like a style, but often it's just like, I just can't be bothered to draw anything more detailed than this. So then it comes up very, very simplified, which works for me. But so that's what I use, like DALL-E, kind of create like reference images, poses and things that I can't just like Google, and you just like create it. So that's super fucking awesome. And that's been amazing because it's been like kind of this inspiration drought for a while. Like I should and will maybe start going out into the world and like going to museums and going to places, galleries and places where you can actually like gather like real world inspiration. But I live in this small town and I don't really go out much outside of this town. And, I'm just not really being inspired artistically most of the time in my surroundings. And so then just to hop on the computer and just generate some shit's really cool. So that works for me. I would have said, and I have said in other podcasts I've done, guests on podcasts, where this question comes up, and I always answer it with psychedelics. Like psychedelics is where I get my inspiration. I haven't had a psychedelic experience. I was about to say I haven't had a psychedelic experience since January when I sat with ayahuasca last, but I had that ketamine experience last month, and I don't know that art really came out of me, or like illustrations, I should say, came out of me for that. But I would normally say psychedelics, and I'm actually going to be doing mushrooms on Thursday, and I haven't done mushrooms, I think, like since late last year. And I'd like to think that inspiration, I don't go in with being like, I'm going to do this drug so I get inspiration out of it, but I'm hoping that something comes out of it. That'd be really nice. And all the other things that come out from a psychedelic experience. But still on that note of AI generated stuff, there's DALL-E, and then there's Midjourney, and there's a bunch of other ones, I think. But Midjourney, dude, even if you're not interested in art or producing art or like just don't feel like you would be interested in generating AI art through Midjourney, fuck that. Well, it's like, figure it out, but you go on Discord, and then you have to get in this chat server, and it's like, it's a weird way to do it. I don't understand it at all, but you're basically generating these AI prompts within like a chat box. Yeah. Anyway, I don't understand it, for one, and I'm also fucking blown away. And I know that it's a divisive, if you want to call it that, topic, especially in like the artist sphere, because I can see why. It's producing shit that like I could work the rest of my life being an artist and never be able to produce the shit that this stuff is doing within the matter of like 30 seconds where you give it. I was in this chat thread with a bunch of other people, and it's funny because you're seeing what other people are generating. And so like I'm typing in whatever my silly ass shit is, and then there's somebody else right in there like showing their prompts, and this person was like had like a paragraph, because I mean you can be as descriptive as you want, and the AI will try to produce it as close to whatever you've specified as possible. And people are getting down to like what, they're emulating a photograph of something. This person was producing something like, it was like, I want a model in the style of Grace Jones wearing like a traditional African beaded outfit, but I want it to look futuristic, and I want them to be like in a very specific place, and like just this hugely, like this little short essay on what they want this picture to look like, and then also giving it the camera setting. So it's like, I want it shot on whatever, like a Fuji camera, 1.8 aperture, like shutter speed, like the whole fucking thing. And my God, the results that this thing, like I was like, oh, whatever I'm generating is fucking bullshit. This person is like crushing it right now. And they kept doing variations of it, changing some of the wording slightly to kind of get it closer to what they want. And these fucking pictures are insane. Like I can already, I think to a discerning eye, you can like kind of look at it and see that it's not like an actual photograph of somebody, but it's pretty fucking close. And it's also like, regardless of whether or not it looks like a actual photo, it's fucking insane what it is. And like, what the fuck just happened there? Like, I'm sorry, what was the process of you typing in words and then the way that you see it appear, like, 'cause it'll generate, like it'll show the percentages of how close it is to done. And it'll start as this kind of like, it looks like you like took a picture of a ghost, or you're like in a dark room and you're just seeing this kind of like black photo or image with like kind of a glow, like just a faint glow. And then as the picture becomes more generated, you're seeing there's some detail. Oh, okay, that's a person's face, and it's getting more and more detailed. And then by the time it's 100%, it's this fucking futuristic Grace Jones character in this. Oh, it's just like, I don't understand it. And I guess I don't need to. And I also see the threat. I see the potential. I mean, also people are on there like generating, make me a flat vector-based, minimal colored, circular logo of a chef holding a chef knife in a style of a cartoon. Like, again, just being like very specific and getting like, oh, that could literally be somebody's logo. Like without a doubt, a graphic designer, without a doubt, graphic designers are on there right now generating logos to present to clients without having to do any fucking work whatsoever. It is insanity. And I don't know. I mean, I'm certainly not going to get mad about it. I'm not going to feel like, I'm not going to like start living in any sort of like existential threat of me being like pushed out. 'Cause I've definitely tried to generate real fun wow images, and I'm not popular enough in the world or in the wherever you have to be popular in order to do that. But it's not generating like, work that looks like mine, yet. And as soon as it does, I'm just going to start generating it myself on there. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. So that's kind of a little backstory as to where I get my inspiration for illustrations. But I would also say I like old shit. Like I like finding like an old, like my mom gave me recently a bunch of shit from my grandfather, and like all this kind of paperwork, and like his like he had like these old war rations in this little paper booklet and all that kind of stuff. Like I love like ephemery. I rewatched Chernobyl, the TV show on HBO, for the third time. And I smile when I say that because it's not like the most lighthearted subject matter. And I'm like, wow, I went through that 3 times, huh? It's just so good. It is so fucking good. It ticks all my boxes for what it is to make a creative, original show. And also I love stories of gross human miscalculations that have just catastrophic outcomes. And Chernobyl just takes the cake for that. But every time I watch it, I'm so like, I get so horny for Soviet era things, like whether it's like an old phone or like glasses or these like instrument panels that existed in Chernobyl. And you see them, you're like, oh, this is a bad TV set. And then you find out that this is like one for one what the technology looked like, where it's like little blinking red buttons that are supposed to indicate there's something wrong going on in this fucking giant nuclear facility, and you're like, oh, that red light's blinking. Let me consult the giant binder for that to see what what that red button means. But the reason I brought that up is inspiration. And the last time I watched it, I ended up on eBay and I ordered like an old Soviet watch, like a wristwatch, and it came from Ukraine. And it's like cool, like it was just not, I mean, it's cool to me. Like, I don't think like people in Ukraine are like, this box is really cool that I'm about to send out. I don't know. It's just like, it's got tape on it that has Ukraine, I guess. What's the alphabet there? What did I say? Like the Ukraine language? I know like the Russian alphabet has like a certain name to it that I don't know because I'm not smart. But it had these like all these stamps and like just kind of state organized, like the way that USPS would put, I fucking fucked it up twice. I'm sorry, Drew. I said UPS fucking employee of the year, USPS, get that shit right. Put some respect on that name. The USPS stamp, like maybe in other countries they're like, oh, this stamp's cool with the eagle on it or whatever it is. But for me to see that stuff, like I love seeing that kind of stuff. That's very inspiring to me is what the point I'm getting to. But I ordered a watch and it was awesome. It was this old watch and it had fucking USSR written on it. So it's like from a time that no longer exists. And I wore it for a few months and then it fell apart, which is also hilarious because the Soviet stuff is just notorious for being shit. Because it was just like they just made the cheapest, stuff to do that. But on the third go for watching Chernobyl, I went back on YouTube and I just type in Soviet era and then see what comes up because I'll take literally anything. And I got this this like intercom phone where I love like old rotary phones. I just think they're so fucking cool and they remind me of my childhood and then even before that when communication was much more simplified, and it represents a lot for me and I just think they're great. But I got one that's like it doesn't have anything on it. It's brown, which is amazing. Brown plastic phone. And if you imagine like a rotary phone where the like rotary dial would be, there's nothing. It's just blank. And so it would just be like an intercom phone. So it would presumably be in some fucking bureaucrat's office and that would ring and maybe it'd be a secretary or like a number being patched over to him. And I just was like, oh, this is so great. It was like $75 and I got it and it was and it shipped from Ukraine as well. So there you go. So, I try to find inspiration in the most random of sources. And, I don't know. There's a lot of places to look around. And I think being interested in being curious and paying attention, I guess I try to like pay attention to things. Is that like a really good quote? Can I get quoted of that someday? I like to pay attention to things. Daren Thomas McGee. I love you.
That was the really fun wow show. All right, we're done. Oh, yep. Okay, bye.